Hi, and welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation focused on youth mental health. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that all content that is found in our podcast is created for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this podcast. Thank you so much, and without further ado, let's get started.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us again today. I'm here, your host Punam, with a special guest, Brad, and our sister Rini. Today, we are going to listen to Brad's parenting journey, and something unique about Brad, he is also a grandfather. So, more wisdom is going to come out of this episode. So, Brad, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit more about you. Where are you joining us from and what's your journey, parenting journey? A little bit more about your family life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Brad Ankenman, and I live in um, Clovis, California. So it's Central Valley of California. Grew up here, moved away to upstate New York, and raised my children in upstate New York, and then moved back here to support my parents as they age. So that's where I'm at.
Wonderful. So you mentioned you have children. So how many children do you have, and did you face any parenting challenges when you were raising them?
Yeah, so I have four kids, and I actually had four kids in 4 years. So if you think about the complexity of having four children in 4 years, it's a lot. There are probably 2 or 3 years that I don't remember very well because of the amount of stress and anxiety that came from those times. The other thing that I'll say is interesting is that we actually lived in Northern California. At the time, we had two kids. So I had my second child in Northern California. Only lived there for 2 years, and then we moved to um, upstate New York. And part of the reason why we moved is cost of living was so much cheaper where we were living, and I was able to have two more, and we actually had twins. And so the yeah, so we were alone living in a new place with new weather patterns. I grew up in California, so new weather patterns, things that I didn't understand, new jobs, and trying to be a sole provider at the same time with my wife staying home, and it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot during those times.
Brad, I can relate with you. For me, you changed states, I changed continents, like, countries. New culture here, new language, new to relationship with my husband, new job, becoming new mom. Oh my God, I can relate with you. So for me,
It was so much. Yeah, so
yeah.
much.
And for me, I think I did not know the language. Like, what am I experiencing? Is it normal or not? And baby blues. And I went through postpartum depression, which was a gift to me because now I know how it feels and I can help others. So tell us more about your challenges. What did you experience?
Yeah, I think the let me lay it out like this. The challenges come from I'll say uh, from my childhood. You bring forth all of these things that you lived and experienced, and the baggage of your childhood, and the things that came through. I had amazing family and all those kind of things, but I still experienced many places in my life with trauma. And when I had children, and first of all, I got married at 21, had children starting at 26. I was done having children by the time I'm 30. That's why I'm a grandfather at almost, at 55 years old. And so through all of those challenges, you kind of bring forth all of those things. So I was expecting a little bit of like amazing, being a parent was going to be the greatest thing. I'm going to have these people around me. It's going to be this cozy place. And then I didn't think the fact that I was going to have my children, and my children are not cozy and never were cozy. And they're very energetic and filled with life, and causing challenges and all these things, and then putting them all together in a very short period of time. It was a perfect storm for a lot of personal challenges. And then we add a complication in there, that we made a decision that was right for us, that my wife was going to stay home with the kids. And she went through, she became an educator. And then immediately we said, we don't want to get used to this money. I have a good job. Let's, have you stay home. And she desperately wanted to. And so we made that really difficult decision. So throwing in complications of 4 young children, being a sole provider, baggage from childhood, all of these different things that kind of added up and created a kind of a perfect storm in me, where I lived every single day with just massive stress and anxiety, wanting to be the best I could possibly be at my job, and be, the leader that I wanted to be, and to do all these things and work on really hard problems. And I'm kind of wired that way anyway. I want to be probably a type A personality, pretty typical. Everything was about achieving and those kind of things, and that all came into my family. And so a lot of times I gave everything at the office, and then when I came home, I kind of had nothing left. And I lived that way for many years, not taking care of myself, not adjusting my behaviors at home, being very short with my kids, and kind of trying to going through many different things, trying to help them and be great and all these kind of things, but kind of falling short from my own desire. I think if you ask my children, they wouldn't say any of that's true. I think if you ask my wife, they would say that's also not true. But how I know that what I am today as a grandfather, if I could have been that for my children, that would have been a much better position. And also, my wife was so wired towards raising her education as an early education, so she was perfect for them when they were younger. But one of the blessings that we had is that I ended up going through a metamorphosis later on, and doing a lot of work on myself, and that enabled me to have a different perspective, and actually being the person they needed to be when they were teenagers. So it was actually a really nice way to do it. But yeah, that's a lot of complications when they were younger in life, a lot of difficulty. And I think as time went on, things got better, but it definitely required a different type of me to show up in that process.
Wow, Brad. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. I am intrigued and curious. You're saying different you. So how did you and you were talking that self-awareness. You are aware of your own self. Your family may think differently. So how did that shift happen? And you were saying you did work on yourself. So would you like to share more
Yeah,
details?
yeah, absolutely. There's a very specific story. It's a little hard to talk about, but I think it's important. Um, I got a phone call from my second son, one day, and he was walking in the middle of the night. I got a phone call in the middle of the night, and he was walking down someplace, and he was preparing to commit suicide. And in that moment, I knew that, like, part of the complication is that he was having an existential crisis. We now know that he's also on the spectrum. He has been diagnosed with autism, and just brilliant. And he couldn't find his way in the world, and he had to be a certain way, and he knew that things weren't right, and he didn't know how to kind of address the world. And because his mind works in such a beautiful and amazing way, and he's brilliant. He just didn't know how all of it fit together, and he was just really struggling. But he didn't feel like he could talk to anybody, and he had his method of how he was going to commit suicide. And he called me up and he just said, "I need you to come pick me up." And we had a talk. And at that moment, I realized, like, yeah, things aren't right. Like he should have felt comfortable to talk to us, but he didn't have the language for it. He honestly, I don't think, had the language to be able to talk about it. But through the whole process of raising him, it was super challenging because he always pushed on us. He always wanted things his way, and he was just so adamant. And in one way, it was beautiful. And even at the time, we acknowledged it, that like he always thought outside of the box, and he always was looking for ways to skirt the system, but never lied about it. Could never tell a lie, even to this day. And so he was in a situation now where he needed to have a different environment. And so we put him into some cognitive behavioral therapy. And at the same time, I had been going through all these things at work, and just frustrated, and I was pretty well broken. And so I ended up going into therapy as well. And one of the amazing things about going down this path is that sometimes there's a moment where all of this perfect storm happens, and you're ready to receive, and you're ready to act differently and to think differently. And what ended up happening to me is I walked into the door of this random therapist, and he looked at me and he says, "Who do you want to kill?" And I said, "Everybody." And he was like, you know, "Please tell me, like, let's have a conversation." And it's amazing because, like, sometimes just the right person shows up in your life at the right time with the right orientation. And he started challenging me on all of the things that I had beliefs about, especially about my second son. And like, he was going to spend too much time on video games, and that's a concern. And he was fighting me on these things, but he had to ask the question of, like, well, what's the problem? Like, what's going to happen if he does that? What if he makes that choice? And so I had to be faced and confronted by these really, really challenging problems that I had very rigid views on, about myself and about my children and about this one son in particular. And so as he was developing in his cognitive behavioral therapy and getting the help that he needed, I was also at the same time going through all of these things. Now, the amazing part here is, and again, this is where, fear, anxiety, frustration, all these things, at the same time, my company was going through an acquisition, not my personal company, but the company I worked for. Ended up working for this other company. I hated it. I needed to get out of it. And and turns out that, I just said to him, give me a package or find me a fantastic job, but I'm ready to kind of go do my own thing. The interesting thing is that the worst fear in my mind was to lose my job. But now that wasn't the worst fear in my life anymore. My worst fear is to lose my son. And I ended up being able to take a significant amount of time off with him, and be with him. And even though I was stressed about finding new work and all of those challenging things, looking back on that moment in time, it was the most beautiful time of me being home and available for him, and doing and for all of my children, for that matter, and going through that change and metamorphosis and rebuilding, and the time not having to worry about work and all of these things. Never missed a day of food, never missed a day of anything. But it was more about the time that it took to be with him, and that value of rebuilding myself and rebuilding him at the same time. And at the same time, we always say that like that experience made the whole rest of the family operate differently, and it made the whole rest of the family get a different Brad, and so everyone benefited from me all of a sudden going from authoritarian, uh, firm beliefs in how parenting should work to being a person who was able to adapt and receive everybody and anything, and just accepting. And I had to do the hard thing of saying, like, at 16 years old with my son, I had to say to him, I'm no longer going to parent you. You're in charge of your own life. And you're the one who has to make these decisions, and you have to live. And 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 I am here to only support you. I'm not going to do anything to guide you or shape you or do anything. There is no weight on you. I simply need to walk with you, and when you need something, to be the person that is there to give you a hug, or to answer your questions, to help to inform you to make decisions, but to absolutely have no weight or authority on you. And to this day, that's how I operate with all of my kids. I refuse. I have no expectations. I have no thought about what it is that they should do. I still have a lot of opinions, but I always try to couch these things with, please discard this if it doesn't work, if it doesn't work for you. And all of my kids have had challenges, and all of my kids have had to make hard decisions, and all of my kids have done things that I didn't think were right, or still are doing things that I don't think are right. It's none of my business as a parent. That's how I believe. And from that, all of these kids know that they can ask me about anything, they can tell me anything, and there is nothing that I won't say. Like, I'll be honest, I'm going to say to them what I think, but there's no obligation for them to say or do what I want. And that is such an important thing. And I even have my youngest daughter. I have 3 boys and 1 girl, and my daughter is going through a whole bunch of things, and she has her own path to follow in life. And to this day, at 26 years old, I give her no input, because I can observe that when I do give her input, that it is impactful to her. It is literally impactful. So I told her, I will never say anything to you about anything, but you have to come to me if you need me. And it's incredibly hard for her to do it, and she doesn't want to do it. But that is exactly how our relationship goes. And the only thing she knows is I love her, and I love her unconditionally, no matter what she chooses, no matter how she chooses it, and that's it. But I have to pay attention to my kids. I have to see how they're going, what they need. If they need me to act a certain way, then I will change myself and not expect them to change, because they have their own life to live, and it's different than my life. And the expectations are that. It's incredibly important to me. I know that was a lot, so I'll stop there if you have any other questions.
Brad, first of all, thank you so much for uh, opening your heart and sharing that personal story. I'm sure many parents are going to be benefited. So, what I learned, and as you said, unconditional love and no expectations. So I think even we will hear from Sister Rini also. This is exactly what my parenting journey taught me. Yes, I am a mother, but I don't own my kids. They have a different journey. They have their own likes, dislikes, right? As a mother, what is my job? To support them, to love them unconditionally, as you were saying. And the beautiful thing, what you said, we cannot change others, right? We need to be in charge of our own self, right? The self transformation, if I am doing, like, the right things, it will reach to my kids. I don't even need to say words to them, right? So, Sister Rini, I am so amazed to listen to Brad's journey. Would you like to share something, what you observed or you would like to add more to?
I mean, there's really not much to add to what Brad has shared with us, actually. But I really loved his attitude towards the learnings. And it's like, although in the moment it felt like a perfect storm, and it felt like I'm helpless or whatever it may have been at that time. But somehow, somewhere, as he said, at the right time, you find the right person to guide you. And that is because his heart was open to kind of really receive in that moment. So I find unknowingly, Brad was seeing things as though it's a blessing in disguise. And, um, and I really do find your beautiful journey with your son who talked to you about committing suicide. And I remember there was this point in my life's journey also where my older daughter had spoken to me about it, and there was a meltdown. And I felt like I'm such a bad parent. And I felt like I'm just not doing things right. And I started going into guilt and a lot of shame. And I remember seeing all those emotions and I just didn't know what to do. I was quite helpless at that time. But one thing, for some reason, it's like there is some resilience within all of us, I find. It is a hidden resilience, but it's there. Not wanting to be a best parent or anything, but somehow I do find that this feeling is that we are growing up together. It's not like that I am helping you grow up, but we are growing up together. I'm learning with you. So, with that attitude, I was able to kind of take a step back from all these feelings of shame and guilt, and I'm not good enough as a parent. Other parents are so good. Why it only happens to me? Kind of attitude, these kind of things. I remember seeing all of that. And that kind of that's when I realized that what really looks bad on the surface is actually good for me. And what looks sometimes good on the surface may not actually be that good for me in the long run. So all these challenges that we face as parents, I saw that it's not like that I grew up without making mistakes. I made my own fair share of mistakes. And I honestly don't even see them as mistakes, but I see them as miss/takes in a movie. Kind of, it's like, okay. And I can see that those mistakes, miss/takes, were very important for me to realize what I have realized. And I need to let them to make their own mistakes and learn from their own journey. So Brad, your story has been so inspiring, and you were so open to receive whatever comes my way. I'm growing up with my children. I'm not doing anything for them. In fact, we all are growing up together. And I find that was very beautiful. And yeah, so I would say that this journey kind of taught me to really see from a place which is behind and prior to the guilt and the shame that I thought I was. And I realized that guilt and shame can come in my experience, but I can even see from behind them. And that is where I found that power is not being resistant to what is coming up in my experience. And more I learned from that, that somehow gets translated, I found, in your relationships and in your attitude towards life also. So that's what I would like to say, and really thank you so much for sharing it so
Yeah.
honestly.
The one thing that I'll say that I think my kids took away from childhood about their dad. The one thing I can say is that even when they were young, even all the way through to today, I'm always been vulnerable. I've always said I'm sorry when I did something wrong, when I've lost my temper, and I've always created an environment where that they knew I wasn't perfect, and that's how I've always. That's why I say my kids and my wife probably see me a little bit differently than how I think they see me. And some of it's probably better, and some of it's probably worse. But the one thing that I can say is that Dad always tried to be good. He always tried to do these things, to be vulnerable. And when he did something that wasn't right, he tried to make it right, and kind of pivot to a new perspective and try to help. There were many times that I lost my temper and was very, very had a very short fuse, and it was really tough. But those times I always came back and said, look, I handled that completely wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And this is what I'll try to do better next time. And I always did. I always tried to do better next time. So really, no matter how it goes, like the story that I have is my story. But the way that we change and we grow, it all starts from the understanding, that one part of understanding what is real and what isn't real in ourselves. And then we have to reflect, is that a part of us that we like and that we want to do more of? Or is it something that we need to address? And I find it to be very, very important to evaluate it. And to this day, like even now at 55 years old, and like I said, a grandfather, it is so incredibly important for me to look in the mirror and say, am I doing what I want to do today? And am I behaving in the way that I want to behave? And what is the reality? And when I argue with my wife, I will look at her and say, this is how I'm feeling, and this is why I'm feeling this way, and this is something that I'm doing, and I don't like it. I understand that I'm projecting this on you, or I'm creating this environment that's negative for you, and you're reacting to that. I understand that, or whatever it is, but I take the ownership of it very, very firmly. Like it's 100% on me when it's on me, when it is on me. And then I work to figure out ways to address it. But I'm the person who always will do my best to acknowledge it, and then to find ways to move forward. And I think that is such a powerful position to be with kids, is that when you're raising them, if you can say like, hey, I just don't know what the heck I'm doing right now. Like I let me walk away in this moment, and let me go find myself real quick here to figure out what my motivation is for feeling the way that I'm feeling, and then being able to move forward. But it's a method that has to exist to be able to, not just to project like, hey, you're doing this thing that you don't have. And believe me, I know all about not having enough space in your head to be able to do this. It's a very, very challenging thing I'm saying to do. But to simply be able to say, I know my motivation for this isn't always in the right spot. So I'm projecting on you something that's in me, and a fear that I have. A lot of times it's a fear, and that fear gets projected onto the kid because they're playing too many video games. They're going to get overweight. They're not going to do their homework. They're not going to go to college. They're not going to get a job, and they're going to fail in life. And that is a reflection on me. And so that whole entire process is a fear that does not exist. And so we go down these paths, and it's like, well, what's my motivation? Well, is my motivation about me, that I have this fear, or is it a motivation that you're truly gonna, be like, that time that you're spending isn't wise? Like, and why isn't it wise? And those things. So there's a nuance there, that the action is still the same, but I still think that you have to understand your motivation for doing it, and then shape the rules or guidelines around what your children have, rather than sit there and say that this is a hard, fast rule and they just got to follow it. It's my way or the highway. That never works. And the harm on this, and this is where I'll say my wife was beautiful in this whole situation, is she demanded that we have a relationship with our children. And she said, no matter what, we're going to have a relationship with these kids. And that means that we have to do whatever we can to ensure that we always have open lines of communication, and that I understand you're mad, Brad. I understand that they're not doing what you want them to do, but we're going to have a relationship on this. And so you got to figure out what that's going to take in you to have and maintain that relationship. So I'm so grateful for my wife to have a partner. By the way, 35 years this year being with her, and she's an amazing person. So I don't want to make it sound like this is all on me, but that's my part of the story, and I know she's got a million other ones on her side of the story.
Great. Yeah, go ahead, Sister Rini. It's so beautiful. And, I wanted to touch on fear. So, Sister Rini, first you do share what is your thoughts.
Exactly about the fears of losing one's self-image. Okay. I think that is probably the seed of all the issues in life. No matter what, whether it's in terms of relationship, activities, anything in life, it's all fears are based on the self-image, which is the seed of all the entire tree of problems. And as Brad enumerated the entire example so beautifully, fear starts with, okay, they are going to be playing video games, they're going to become fat, and they're not going to be able to do anything, they're going to fall sick, and that's not going to reflect well on me. That was so beautifully said. Absolutely. At the end of it, it's all about this personal me, this name, this I am, this mother, the father, the brother, the sister, the son that is not going to look good. And I think this self-image is what we are always trying to protect. For me, what I have found is fear is definitely an emotion which is there to help me see that I am mistaking myself for what I am not. So if fear is there, if the emotion of fear is there, itself is not a problem. I just need to see, where am I putting my identity? If my identity is in a particular thought, a feeling, a sensation, and a role, a label, I will always be living in fear of losing it, or for it to become something less than what it is right now. So, for example, like as I said, when my daughter told me, I don't want to live this life anymore. What's the point? I'm living in this world which is a floating rock. And what's the purpose of life? So she
Sounds
was,
familiar.
yeah, so she was like coming from that place, and there's no meaning in life. What are we doing here? And not only did she make me question, where am I seeing from, but also she also in a way helped me reflect that, yes, actually this question is quite meaningful. And what is the purpose of life? And so to be able to answer her question, or to help her, I mean, in the sense to kind of, I had to really see myself. I mean, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? And I found that the true meaning of life is to really live my true nature prior to these identities that I have believed myself to be. I believe I'm Rini, this name, and I am this role of a mother, I am the role of a father, or whatever it may be, an aunt, an uncle, whatever it may be. But yes, I play the roles, but do I play the roles from this perspective of I am the role, or I am the one playing the role? I will give a simple analogy. Let's say there is Tom Cruise. Okay, Tom Cruise is playing the role of Jerry Maguire, for example. Yeah. And as Jerry Maguire, he has three daughters. And if Tom Cruise starts to believe that he is Jerry Maguire, and then as Jerry Maguire, he believes that these three daughters are my daughters, and if these three daughters are doing well in life, then I will look good. And if it's their failure is my failure, their success is my success, their happiness is my happiness, their sadness is my sadness, then life will be very unstable. So if they are not happy, I will continue to try to fix them so that I can be happy. Right? Not because I want them to be happy. At the end of the day, I, as Jerry Maguire, want to be happy. And that is why I want them to be happy. So it's a very selfish motive there, hidden somewhere. But under the guise of, I want my children to be happy. But once you start seeing that that which I am playing the role of Jerry Maguire is not really Jerry Maguire. So Jerry Maguire is the role, and Tom Cruise is standing here for the ultimate truth of who I am, right? In this analogy. And so once this kind of thing was clear to me, it was more like, yes, I'm playing the role of a mother, but my happiness is not dependent on my children.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So it was like, they can be sad, they can be unhappy, they have the right to be whatever they want to be. As Brad said, I'll always be standing by you. You can be whatever you want to be. My love is unconditional for you. That which I see it as, my happiness is not dependent on you, and you are not responsible for my happiness. You're not responsible for my sadness either.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of taking that, then when I know that the role of a mother that I'm playing as that which is really happiness itself. And as that happiness itself, if I'm facing fears based on your future, you are not responsible for those fears. It is something that I have to see. I'm identifying with the identity of a mother. So I need to see that and work on that rather than you being responsible for it. So I think that's what Brad was trying to say, that let them be whatever they want to be, and you can really let them be whatever they want to be only when your sense of self is not invested in their ups and downs and highs and lows and success and failure. So I find that this Jerry Maguire is like a mother role or a father role, whatever it may be. Different roles that the same, what do you call? Tom Cruise is playing. Tom Cruise can play also uncle. He can also play a king of England, whatever it may be. He can play many roles, but as long as he remembers he's Tom Cruise and not Jerry Maguire playing many different roles, he will always come from the truth of his true nature rather than how I preserve this role and make this role to look good, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love it.
Thank you, Sister Rini. Many things were coming in my mind listening to both of you, and I will tell you quickly. I am also a mother of 25-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old son. So we went on a short vacation. Brothers, sisters, they were talking, and it was very heartwarming to listen to my daughter. She was telling brother, our parents are not the maybe perfect parent or the best parents, but they did their best. Right. So I felt, like they understand, intentions are good. Yeah, we may not be always right, but our intentions were good. And definitely a lot of other things came up, Brad, as you were speaking, that projecting our own fears on our kids, and Sister Rini clarified why do we do that? We have that fear, what other people will think. They will finger point on me, my parenting, or they will hold me responsible for my kids, right? While we need to understand, we all are on our own journey. So I just
That's for
want,
sure.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Brad, I definitely think I need to have one another episode with you because I do know you mentioned about your son, neurodivergent. I do not know how did you figure out in the childhood or you came to know later on, but a lot of parents they sometimes don't understand and they don't get diagnosis done or they themselves are not ready for accepting the news or creating that safe space or being that loving parent regardless it's neurodivergent or not. So I am so grateful for you joining us today, sharing your parenting journey, and appreciating your partner also. A lot of people, they take it for granted, but as you acknowledged, to run a beautiful family, both roles are important, and both of you did your share. I'm
Oh,
so
absolutely.
grateful. Yep. Thank you. Sister Rini, would you like to say anything before we wrap up?
I really admired the metamorphosis of Brad, and like the whole family is like a butterfly family now. Right? And it's like what I love about the metamorphosis is like, you know how that pupa has to totally melt in that shell, totally melt.
Yes.
And that is what is the life is really helping us totally melt this identity of being this me and my story. And when we really are raising children, I really feel they really help us. They are like our teachers, they are like our gurus, and they really help us go through that metamorphosis. And I love the fact that you said that you honestly tell them, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think they learn more from that than anything that we can do because they really see that generosity, that honesty, that sincerity of who you are. And that is what they're getting really nurtured by. So, really, thank you so much because as parents, we can have this attitude that my children should not think that I can do anything wrong.
Well,
And
I do stuff wrong every day.
that's
Even at
beautiful.
my age, even after metamorphosis, I'm still not perfect, amazingly.
Perfect, perfect. And that is what is, I think, is the most endearing part about you, that we're not ashamed of our mistakes. It's just a part of the human journey and the human experience. We will continue to make mistakes and continue to learn and still be happy about everything. So
100%.
thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you, Brad. I always say we human beings are perfectly imperfect. So
I
enjoy.
resemble that.
Yep. Let's all enjoy our parenting journey. Let's all become closer to our truth and not project our fears on our children and be okay to admit our mistakes in front of them. That's what makes us powerful, and I think family come closer when we do that, right? That open channel of communications. It's okay to do mistake. I tell my kids all the time. And other thing what I tell them, if you don't share, I can't care, right? They need to share with me what they're going through, or they need to have their trust. Like, my mom is always there for me. I think it goes both ways. So let's parents do our share, and I'm sure our kids will reach where they belong. They are also on their journey. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I may say one more thing before we finish. Like Brad was sharing, and I felt that his children and his grandchildren are not feeling the burden of making him happy in any way.
Oh, no. I
And so
would say
they
that
are
that's very
totally
true.
free. They're totally free.
There is definitely no pressure on that. In fact, I remove it all the time. Even at like birthdays and, all the things that where attention is drawn to me, I make sure that they know that there's no zero effort that has to be given to me, and I'm very happy just being there with them. Yeah. So
Beautiful. Beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you.
Even I feel like the expectations are the main cause. Even I observed in my journey, and I was telling other day, a mother has expectation kids will come, they will, take care of her when she is sick. And I was telling her, why do you have that expectations? What if those expectations are not met? And why are you putting that burden on your children, right? So, but it's easier said than done. That's what people tell me when I tell them, if you want to really feel the freedom, release all the expectations. They say, Poonam, it's easy to say, but today Brad is showing us it's not like he has done it. So love it, Brad. As you said, no burden on kids. They can be themselves. They can do whatever they want. And your doors are open, right? They can come, share, cheer you up, or celebrate with you. They're always welcome, but you don't have expectations.
Zero expectations. That's my goal. I want to have zero expectations.
Beautiful. Thanks again. Take care.
Thanks.
You are listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation. As part of our youth series, we will be releasing new episodes every month, so make sure to continue to check those out. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we thank you so much for listening.